I've said it, I've written about it, I've presented on it many times before. The two biggest elements about the success or the complete failure of a transformation are two things: the quality of its leaders and the effectiveness of its communication. So today, I'm going to talk about the 5 strategies that can help you foster resilience within your teams, not just as individuals, but as a collective force ready to tackle whatever comes your way. Take the example of Pixar. They have this thing called brain trust meetings, where directors and producers present their work and get candid feedback. No sugarcoating, just constructive criticism. So the key here is they don't see negative feedback as a failure, but as an essential part of the creative process. It's about stripping away egos and understanding that every critique is an opportunity to grow. And that, my friends, is the essence of a growth mindset. Right? So think about, when was the last time someone gave you feedback and how did you respond to it? Was it welcome? Did you get defensive? Feedback is a gift, so use it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Future Fit with Friska. And we're going to delve into a cornerstone of building future fit organizations, that X factor that causes the tough to get going when the going gets tough. It's not just about bouncing back, it's about thriving amid whatever craziness the world throws at you. So we're going to explore today the essential role of grit. We're going to share personal stories and discuss strategies on how you can cultivate it within your team and eventually cultivate it within the organizational culture. Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, young people today, kids today, they have no grit, they're not tough? I hear it all the time. Parents, coaches, teachers, managers, all lamenting about the lack of resilience in today's youth. And hey, I'm sure there's some truth to it, isn't there? We live in a world where instant gratification is the norm, where we swipe, tap, click to get whatever we want whenever we want, often without much effort. So it's easy to see why today's children might struggle with the concept of pushing through adversity, of grinding it out when the going gets tough. But here's the thing. This isn't just a generational issue. It's a societal one, and it doesn't stop with kids. In fact, if we're not careful, it will permeate through our organizations too. Resilience is critical for organizations facing rapid change and adversity. It helps teams navigate uncertainty and emerge stronger. Without resilience, even the best strategies can buckle under pressure. You see, just like how we sometimes worry that our kids might lack the grit to face life's challenges, as leaders, we worry about whether our teams are equipped with the resilience needed to tackle the constant overlapping disruptions in the business world. Without resilience, the most meticulously crafted strategies can crumble at the first sign of trouble. It's the foundation that keeps those businesses standing when the winds of change blow fiercely. And it's what allows teams to navigate uncertainties and come out stronger on the other side. You must know who Howard Schultz is, right? Former CEO of Starbucks. So he faced rejection from over 200 investors before finding the one. Jack Ma, Alibaba, couldn't even get a job at KFC. Oprah Winfrey, fired from her first TV job, but went on to build a media empire, richest woman in the world. Elon Musk had many failures with SpaceX, but yet he persisted, and now he's achieved groundbreaking success and he's the richest man in the world. Meryl Streep was told she was too ugly for King Kong, but she, like so many others, kept going. Resilience is a word that gets thrown around a lot in leadership circles. But here's the thing, resilience isn't just about individual grit, it's about how we as leaders cultivate that unshakable spirit within our teams. In the fast-paced world of today, the ability to bounce back, adapt, thrive, it's essential. So today, I'm going to talk about the 5 strategies that can help you foster resilience within your teams, not just as individuals, but as a collective force ready to tackle whatever comes your way. The first step, growth mindset. really encourage learning from failures, right? Let's start with the idea of a growth mindset, right? It's easy to celebrate success, but real growth, that happens when things don't go according to plan, when setbacks happen, curveballs come. Do your team see failure as a dead end or as an opportunity to level up and be better than before? Encouraging a growth mindset means normalizing failure as part of the learning process. It's about shifting the narrative from I failed to what can I learn from this and how can we improve, right? Take the example of Pixar. They have this thing called brain trust meetings where directors and producers present their work and get candid feedback. No sugarcoating, just constructive criticism. So the key here is they don't see negative feedback as a failure, but as an essential part of the creative process. It's about stripping away egos and understanding that every critique is an opportunity to grow. And that, my friends, is the essence of a growth mindset, right? So think about, when was the last time someone gave you feedback and how did you respond to it? Was it welcome? Did you get defensive? Right? Feedback is a gift, so use it. Number 2, build strong relationships. So promote teamwork and support networks. Relationships are important because at the end of the day, a resilient team is one that stands the test of time. And when things get tough, they stand together. Strong relationships within teams create a safety net, an unspoken assurance that no one is facing challenges alone. It's about building a culture where people genuinely care for each other, where support isn't just available, it's actively and freely given. Let's look at how Netflix operate. They famously have a freedom and responsibility culture, where employees are trusted to make decisions and they're given the freedom to innovate. But this freedom comes with a strong foundation of trust and support. They know if they make a mistake, they're not going to be thrown under the bus. Instead, the team comes together to figure out how to move forward. And it's this blend of autonomy and support that makes Netflix not just innovative, but incredibly resilient. Organizations have been trying to emulate this culture for a very long time. The third, encourage flexibility. So adapt to changing circumstances. In a world that's constantly in flux, our ability to pivot quickly and efficiently is going to make or break us as individuals and as organizations. Flexibility isn't just about being indecisive. It's about being adaptable, about recognizing when the old ways of doing things no longer work for us. And it's having the courage to try something new. Consider how Spotify navigates the constantly shifting music industry. They use what's known as a squad model, where small cross-functional teams have the autonomy to innovate and pivot quickly without waiting for approval from higher-ups. This flexibility allows them to stay ahead in an industry that's constantly evolving. By encouraging this kind of fast adaptability, you're not just preparing your team for the future, you're letting them actively shape it. Number 4, develop problem-solving skills. So equip teams to tackle challenges head-on, right? Resilience is not just about bouncing back, it's about bouncing forward, bouncing back stronger, faster, better than when you were before. And this means you need really good problem-solving skills. So when faced with challenges, what does your team do? Do they freeze? Or do they jump into action? By equipping your team with the tools and the confidence to tackle challenges head-on, you're building a culture of proactive resilience. So Amazon is a brilliant example of this. Their working backwards approach, where teams start with the customer's needs and then reverse engineer the solution, forces them to think critically and creatively about problem solving. Not just that, it forces them to be empathetic. And it's this mindset that led to innovations like Amazon Prime and AWS. So if you want a resilient team, invest in their ability to solve problems, not as individuals, but collectively. And last but not least, promoting well-being. Mental and physical health, absolutely, it's a foundation. You can't have a resilient team if they're running on empty. This is not just an HR issue, it's actually a leadership responsibility. So when you prioritize well-being, you're saying to your team, I care about you as a person, not just as workers. Google, pretty well known for its emphasis on well-being, They offer everything on site, from wellness centers to mental health support to dance classes. But remember, it's not just about the perks. It's about creating that environment where well-being is integrated in how you work. Google's approach has not only improved employee satisfaction, but has contributed to their innovation and long-term success. So there you have it, 5 strategies to cultivate resilience within your teams, right? Resilience is not built overnight. It's a journey. It's something you, as a leader, need to intentionally cultivate day in, day out. And the more you invest in these strategies, the more prepared your team will be to face whatever comes their way. But what do you do when you don't just want a future fit team, you want a future fit culture that cascades throughout the organization? And I'm talking about organizational culture of resilience. So before we dive into how to foster that elusive culture, let me just quickly recap the components that make up an organization's culture, right? It encompasses a few things: shared beliefs, values, norms, leadership style, practices that shape how members within the organization behave and interact with each other. It's that invisible force that drives everything from decision-making to employee behavior and overall company morale. Simply put, organization is the way we do things around here. So there are some fundamental key components of organizational culture. The first is core beliefs and values. So these are those guiding principles that define what's important within the organization. They shape the ethical standards and norms that employees are expected to uphold. Number 2 is the leadership style. So the way leaders interact with their teams and make decisions profoundly impact the overall culture. Leaders set the tone for communication, behavior, and priorities. The third is communication rhythm. This refers to how information gets shared around the business, right? Open and transparent communication helps to build trust, while closed, unclear, late information creates silos and misunderstandings. The fourth element is employee engagement and motivation. This means how motivated and involved employees are in their work and the organization's bigger mission. Higher engagement often correlates with a stronger, more positive culture. 5, the work environment. When I say work environment, I mean physical and psychological. Both play a role in shaping the culture. So this includes things like how workspaces are set up, the design of the collaboration spaces, right through to the provision of employee assistance programs such as counseling and fitness classes. So a supportive, inclusive, and safe work environment, no-brainer, contributes to a positive, stronger culture.
Are you leading change but constantly running into a brick wall of resistance? Maybe you've huffed and puffed, yet still not blown the house down. You are not alone. Resistance to change is one of the biggest roadblocks that leaders face. But it doesn't have to be. Imagine turning that resistance into momentum which drives you forward. That's exactly what my free 5-part mini course will help you do. It's called Shifting Resistance into Resilience, and in just 5 lessons, I'll walk you through proven strategies to break down those walls. You'll learn how to identify the root causes of resistance, engage your key stakeholders, yes, even the stubborn and loud ones, and build a culture that doesn't fatigue with change. It actually feasts on it. Sound good? All you need to do is click the link to get started, and the first lesson will be in your inbox. Don't let resistance render you powerless. Turn it into resilience that will push you forward.
So now we have a clearer understanding of what is and what isn't organizational culture. How do we cultivate a resilient one? Building resilience within an organization isn't just about preparing for the worst. It's about cultivating that environment where employees and teams can thrive. So here are 3 big strategies that can help foster a more resilient culture. The first, you've heard about it, psychological safety. You need to start cultivating. This is a huge topic, which I'm going to summarize. A culture of resilience starts with psychological safety, creating an environment where employees feel safe to take risk, voice their concerns, give feedback candidly, make mistakes without fear of punishment or ridicule. When there's psychological safety, employees are more likely to do these things: contribute innovative ideas, collaborate effectively, bounce back from setbacks, right? Leaders can foster psychological safety by encouraging open dialogue, actively listening, and demonstrating empathy. Very, very important. Because without this first element of psychological safety, we can't change our mindset. We can't focus on growth. We can't focus on learning. But it's exactly this sort of mindset that is the key to resilience. A growth mindset encourages employees to view challenges and failures as opportunities for learning and development. So when the culture supports continuous learning and sees setbacks as temporary, little blips, it creates a foundation for resilience. You, as leaders, can promote a growth mindset by rewarding efforts, celebrating learning moments, even when things don't go as planned, and providing opportunities for professional development. So there's a really amazing company based in Berlin called Blindfeed. They do this really, really well. Every Friday, they celebrate their failures, right? They celebrate their failures and they acknowledge them, but most importantly, they share what they learned from it and how they're going to avoid it in the future, right? Don't just share wins and success stories, share learnings as well. The third element, building strong social connections. Resilience is strengthened by the support and involvement of others. So in an earlier episode, I had a chat with Eric Gonzalez, founder and principal of the Empathy School in Ubud. And his words come back to me over and over again, right? He traveled all around the world interviewing people, and with his background as a teacher, he asked a lot of questions. And it was unanimous from his 1 year of backpacking what the theme was. And he said, we don't need more solutions. We need more connections. And this is the antidote to healing that hurt that's in our schools, in our communities, in our society, and our workplaces. Fostering strong relationships with teams across departments creates that support network that all of us can rely on during difficult times. When employees, well, not just employees, when people, anyone, when they feel connected and supported, they're more likely to persevere through challenges, right? How many times have you heard this, or you yourself have gone through a really difficult situation? Maybe it was the death of a loved one, maybe it was a divorce, maybe it was some other heartbreak. Like often people recall these challenging moments and they say, I couldn't have done it without the support of X, right? We need people. So don't underestimate the power of team building activities, cross-departmental collaboration, and promoting mutual respect and support with each other. These strategies do more than just build resilience. They build a culture that's really strong, really adaptable, really innovative, and really capable of sustaining transformation efforts over the long term. So when you combine psychological safety, a growth mindset, and strong social connections, you're actively shaping a culture that thrives in challenges. So this resilient culture becomes a cornerstone of any sustainable transformation effort, right? I've said it, I've written about it, I've presented on it many times before. The two biggest elements about the success or the complete failure of a transformation are two things: the quality of its leaders and the effectiveness of its communication. So let's talk about the former. What practical steps can you take as a leader to cultivate resilience within your leadership shadow? All right, let me start with a story. As a child, I was fascinated by the way my grandmother would prepare for storms. So she grew up in Jakarta, flash floods were a regular occurrence. She knew exactly what needed to be done to weather the storm and what the indicators were that meant we needed to evacuate. She would stock up on essentials, secure the windows, make sure the doors were closed, and she made sure all the family staff knew their roles in the event of an emergency. She had a very calm, methodical approach that was a complete masterclass in resilience. She never panicked, even as the winds howled, even as the dogs yelped, even as the rain pounded and the water levels rose higher and higher against the house. Instead, she focused on what she could control and remained a source of strength and serenity for the entire family. So looking back, I realized how much this taught me about leadership in times of adversity. Leaders, like my grandmother during those storms, have the power to influence how their teams think, feel, and respond to challenges. The way leaders behave in tough times can either fortify their team's resilience or erode it. Just like as my grandmother's preparation and calm demeanor ensured we were ready for whatever the storm brought, leaders can take deliberate steps to build and sustain a resilient culture within their organizations. It's not just surviving the tough times, right? It's coming out stronger on the other side. So you play a pivotal role in this process. So what I'm going to cover now are 7 steps leaders can take to support their teams and build a culture of resilience. First, lead by example. So demonstrate resilience in your actions. Set the tone for the entire organizations. So when you demonstrate resilience, whether it's by staying calm under pressure, showing perseverance in the face of setbacks or disappointments, and maintaining a pragmatic, positive outlook, you model the behavior you want to see in your teams. I was reading a study published in the Leadership Quarterly, and it said that leaders who exhibit resilience positively influence their team members' psychological resilience, which in turn boosts team performance. This underscores the importance of walking the talk. The second, offer support. Be available and empathetic. So when times are down, employees need to hear from you. They need to know that you are there for them. So offer support. That doesn't just mean providing resources. It means being present, listening to concerns, showing empathy. Right? Harvard Business Review suggests empathetic leaders are more likely to foster loyalty and trust within their teams. So when you're available and responsive to what your team needs, it not only helps them cope with stress, but it helps improve the overall team dynamic. The third, set realistic goals. So ensure goals are achievable. Whether you're doing a transformation or you're going through something really challenging, it's crucial for leaders to set realistic and achievable goals. If they're unrealistic, people will burn out, people will get frustrated, and resilience will plummet. Right? Gallup says employees who feel like they have an attainable goal, they're 2.5 times more likely to be engaged at the office. So setting goals that challenge but don't overwhelm, you can help your teams maintain motivation and momentum. The fourth strategy is to provide resources. So equip your teams with the necessary tools and training. Resilience is bolstered by competence, right? The belief that you have the skills and resources necessary means you're more likely to live up to that self-fulfilling prophecy. Leaders can support their teams by ensuring they have access to the tools, the training, the information that they need to succeed. Right? PwC found 77% of employees felt that having the right tools was essential for productivity. And this directly resulted in an uptick of team resilience when the chips are down. The fifth strategy is to encourage breaks. Right? We are human. You need to prevent burnout by promoting work-life harmony. Continuous pressure without adequate rest leads to fatigue, which is the antithesis of resilience. Like if you're tired, how the hell are you supposed to be resilient? So leaders should encourage their team to take breaks and maintaining that healthy work-life harmony. World Health Organization, they classify burnout as an occupational phenomenon with significant implications for health and productivity. But if you prioritize some balance and you create a culture where resilience can flourish. The sixth element, create safe spaces. So allow open discussion of challenges and emotions. Right? Psychological safety is a key component of resilience, and you need to create an environment where people are safe to share their struggles and discuss their emotions. There was a project done by Google called Project Aristotle. It found that psychological safety is the most important factor, the number one factor in high-performing teams. So when employees know they can speak up, they're more likely to engage, collaborate, and contribute to the collective whole. Last but not least, celebrate successes. Recognize and reward perseverance and achievement. So celebrating small and large successes alike, it reinforces resilience. It reminds teams of their capabilities and just how far they've come. Recognition and rewards are powerful motivators that boost morale and reinforce positive behavior. Right? Deloitte found that organizations with effective recognition programs, they have a 31% lower voluntary turnover. So, by acknowledging and celebrating resilience in action, leaders not only boost their team's confidence, but it inspires continued perseverance. Remember, building a resilient culture, it's not a one-time effort. It's not a one-month project. It's a continuous process that requires intentional leadership. And just like when you're preparing for a storm, it involves careful planning, consistent action, and unwavering support. Leaders who embody resilience, provide the necessary support, create that safe space. They will create the foundations where resilience can thrive. It's our responsibility to cultivate this in the everyday. The Future Fit organization is very much a resilient organization. And by following these steps, you can work towards this as well. Thank you again for joining me on yet another episode of Fresh by Friska. And remember, the greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. So what's yours saying?